My parents gave my brother $800,000 to buy his dream home and promised me the same when I turned 30. I waited years. On my 30th birthday, they handed me a cake with a note that read, "You'll understand when you're a mother." I just smiled, but that night, I cashed the check my grandma secretly left me and bought a house next door. Now they're furious and begging me to talk. I was standing there in my tiny kitchen, still wearing the sweater I'd put on for what I thought was going to be a quiet birthday dinner with my parents. My 30th birthday. I had waited years for this moment, waited patiently, never complained, never pushed. And all they gave me was a cake and a handwritten note that said, "You'll understand when you're a mother." It wasn't even on a card. It was a scrap of paper. They couldn't even bother to buy a card. I didn't cry right away. I smiled. I smiled as they sang that half-hearted version of Happy Birthday as my mom took photos of me cutting the cake. I smiled when my dad said, "We hope you like the frosting, it's buttercream." I even smiled when they left, telling me they were proud of the woman I'd become. But the moment the door closed and their car pulled away, I sat on the floor with my cat curled in my lap, and I broke. Everything I had tucked away over the years, every forgotten promise, every subtle dismissal, every time I came second to my brother, rushed up like a wave I couldn't stop. But Grandma Marla had seen me. She had known. That same night, I opened the envelope she'd told me not to touch until I turned 30. It had been sitting in my safe for 2 years. Inside was a cashier's check for $950,000 and a letter that simply read, "Buy the house you love. I know they never saw you, but I did." By the next morning, I had contacted a realtor and made an offer on the house next door to my brother's. It had gone up for sale the week prior. It was a bold move, a little petty maybe, but it felt fair. They didn't see it coming. I think that's what stung the most for them. They expected me to be quiet, to be grateful for scraps, to nod and say, "That's okay, I understand." But not this time. Marshall noticed first. He called me 3 times the day the moving trucks pulled in. I didn't answer. My dad drove by slowly twice. My mother texted me an emoji. An emoji, a red heart. I didn't reply. It wasn't until the following evening that the doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw both of them, my parents, standing there like ghosts who didn't recognize the house they haunted. I opened the door halfway. "I think we should talk," my mom said quietly. I looked at them, then at the open boxes behind me. The smell of fresh paint was still in the air. "I think I'm done talking." The silence between us was thick. But to understand why this hit so hard, you have to know where I came from. I'm Samantha Bryce. I was born and raised in Brentwood, just south of Nashville. Nice suburb, good schools. Pretty streets lined with old oaks and brick mailboxes. My brother, Marshall, is 3 years older than me, and for as long as I can remember, he was the favorite. It wasn't blatant, at least not at first. But over time, you start to notice the patterns. The way my mom's face would light up when Marshall entered a room. The way my dad would clear his schedule for his football games, but act like it was a chore to attend my school plays. Still, we were a close family. At least that's what I believed growing up. We did movie nights, holiday dinners, Sunday brunches. Our family photos looked warm and happy. It wasn't until we got older that I saw the imbalance become more overt. When Marshall turned 30, they gave him a house. Not a loan, not a "we'll help with the down payment." They bought him a $800,000 house in Belmead. Gutted, renovated, and fully furnished. I was 27 at the time. I was happy for him, genuinely. I said congratulations. I even helped him move in. I cleaned out drawers, stocked his pantry, and painted his guest room. I was the doting little sister, and I asked nothing. But when I asked my parents if they were going to do the same for me, they said, "Of course, when you turn 30, we'll be fair." So I waited. For 3 years, I stayed in my little duplex in Creve Hall. I didn't try to buy my own house because I figured, what was the point? They'd promised me, and I had always kept my promises to them. I called weekly. I came home for every birthday, holiday, and Mother's Day. I bought pies. I listened to their stories. I didn't push back when they started implying I was too independent or asking when I'd give them a grandchild. I kept being a good daughter, and I waited. I'd be lying if I said I didn't dream about the house. I made Pinterest boards. I went to open houses for fun. I had this mental image of a white bungalow with navy shutters and a wraparound porch. I imagined hanging twinkly lights in the backyard, hosting book clubs, starting a garden. But 30 came. And they showed up with a cake, just a cake. You'll understand when you're a mother. That's what the note said. No check, no mention of the house, just that one sentence. Like my worth was now tied to my reproductive status. Like being single, child-free, and successful wasn't enough. Like I didn't deserve what Marshall got because I wasn't a mother. I didn't even ask them what they meant. I just smiled. I cut the cake. I let them leave. Then I opened my grandma's letter and cried until I couldn't feel my face. I cashed the check the next morning. The house next to Marshall's had just gone up for sale, a red brick two-story with green shutters, almost a twin of his. It was poetic, almost too perfect. I put in a full cash offer that day. Within a week, the house was mine. I think what really stunned them wasn't just that I bought the house, but how I bought it. I didn't need them. I didn't ask. I didn't involve them. That was the first time in my life I chose not to involve them. My mother called me the day after the sold sign went up. Her voicemail was shaky. "Samantha, we saw the sign. I wish you'd talk to us first." Then came the texts. Then my dad showing up on the lawn pretending to be in the neighborhood. Then Marshall, of course. "So, you're my neighbor now," he'd texted with a smiley face. I didn't reply. It wasn't about the house. It was about the principle. They made a promise. They broke it. And then they tried to cover it with frosting and a note that sounded like a bad line from a Hallmark movie. They underestimated me. Now they want to talk. My mom is sending long emails. My dad keeps texting links to family therapy retreats. Marshall invited me over for dinner twice, but I've said nothing, not out of spite, out of clarity. For the first time, I see everything so clearly. How I bent myself backward to be agreeable. How I excused their behavior because they meant well. How I settled for less because I thought eventually I'd be rewarded for my patience. I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done. And I'm not ready to open the door again. Not yet. I didn't expect the silence to last this long. It's been 3 weeks since I moved in next to Marshall. The house is still half in boxes. The walls are bare except for one framed photo of Grandma Marla that I hung above the fireplace. Her smile in that picture feels like a kind of armor. I talk to her sometimes when the quiet stretches too far. Just small things, updates, thoughts, gratitude. She never got to see me own a home, but she made sure I could. She saw what my parents didn't. And I think she knew I would need that moment more than I ever realized. I haven't responded to a single text from my parents since the day they saw the moving truck. At first, it was a flurry, questions, guilt, thinly veiled accusations. "Why didn't you tell us? This feels spiteful. We were going to help eventually." Then the tone shifted. Pleading, remorse. A longer email from my mom arrived with the subject line, "Please don't shut us out." She attached old photos, me in pigtails, smiling at Christmas, sitting on my dad's lap at the zoo. I couldn't even bring myself to open the email. I just stared at the preview in my inbox, feeling a tight ache build in my throat. Every evening, I sit on my back porch and watch the sun dip behind the maples. My yard is small, but it's mine. The air smells like cut grass and honeysuckle. Marshall's backyard is just a few feet away. Some nights I see his wife Nadia out there, wrangling their toddler, who always seems to be sticky with popsicle juice or yelling about dinosaurs. I haven't waved, she hasn't either. I know what they're all saying about me, that I'm being cold, that I'm making this harder than it needs to be, but none of them, not one, has actually said, "We were wrong." Instead, it's all explanations and justifications. My mother's latest message said something about how times were different now, that they wanted to help me when I was ready to settle down, that giving a house to a single woman who doesn't have a family just yet didn't seem like a wise investment. That one sentence stuck with me like a splinter under the skin. An investment, like I had to be married, pregnant, or at least partnered to be seen as worth it. I wasn't a daughter to them. I was a stock option. I've started avoiding going outside during the day. I wait until late evening to bring out the trash or check the mailbox. I'm not hiding, not exactly. But I don't want to run into them, not yet. I'm not ready for another scene on the front lawn, not ready for the polite but sharp tone my dad uses when he's trying to control a conversation. Not ready for my mom's tearful, "I just don't understand why you're doing this." Because she does understand, she just doesn't want to admit it. The only interaction I've had with Marshall was last Thursday. I was trimming some hedges near the side fence when I heard his voice. "Hey, Sam, I didn't look up right away, just kept clipping. The scent of boxwood and summer air filled my nose. He tried again. Can we talk for a minute? I turned then, slow. He was standing on his side of the fence, hands in his pockets, head tilted like he wasn't sure how to approach me. I don't have anything to say right now, I said. Calm, flat. He didn't argue, just gave a soft nod. All right. I get it. But he didn't get it. None of them do. They still think this is about money, about the house, about jealousy. But it's so much deeper than that. It's about being seen, being valued, treated like an equal. All my life, I played the part they wrote for me. I was the helper, the supporter, the one who made things easier for everyone else. I went to Marshall's football games, cheered from the stands. When his daughter was born, I took time off work to help them while Nadia recovered. I never asked for anything back. And the one time I believed they were going to be fair, to follow through on their word, I got a cake and a sentence that reduced my entire existence to my uterus. Now, every time they call or write or show up uninvited, it feels like they're trying to cover that wound with a Band-Aid and pretend it never happened. I started journaling again. I hadn't in years, but there's something about writing down the mess in my head that helps untangle it. Some nights I write letters to my grandma. I tell her how the paint is peeling near the sunroom and how I plan to fix it myself. I describe the way the light hits the front steps around 7 p.m. and how Iris has claimed the guest bedroom as her domain. This house isn't just a house. It's proof. Proof that I am capable, that I am worthy, that I don't have to wait for permission or approval to live fully. And still, part of me misses them. That's the hardest part, the grief under the anger, the ache under the clarity. I miss how things used to feel, even if they were never really real. I miss who I thought they were, but I can't go back to that illusion. Not after everything. Not after seeing it all for what it really was. So I sit in my home, quietly, not out of spite, but because of this silence. This is the first thing they've ever given me that feels like peace. Weeks passed, then months. The house began to take on my shape. The kitchen became the heart of my world. The soft clinking of teacups, the smell of cardamom, the gentle hum of a podcast in the background. I painted the walls myself. I scrubbed the baseboards. I hung curtains and filled bookshelves and framed old postcards from places I'd only dreamed of visiting. Living alone had never scared me, but living free, unapologetically, unattached, was something new. There was no one to dim myself for, no need to edit my voice, no obligation to shrink so someone else could shine. The phone calls from my parents slowed to a trickle. At first, they came every day, then every few. Then just birthdays, holidays, the obligatory check-ins. They started treating me like someone they had to reach out to, not someone they could depend on to reach out first. I could feel the dynamic shift like tectonic plates underfoot. It wasn't loud, but it was profound. One Tuesday in September, I ran into my mother at the grocery store, just outside the produce section. She was holding a bundle of kale and nearly dropped it when she saw me. "Samantha," she said, surprised. I nodded. "Mom." We stood there in that awkward silence, the kind only an estranged family can manage, both wanting to say something but not knowing where to begin. "You look well," she said eventually. Her eyes were searching mine. "I mean really well, the house suits you." I gave her a small, neutral smile. "Thanks." A pause. Then she asked, "Can I buy you coffee?" I agreed, not because I wanted reconciliation, but because I needed to see where she stood. If anything had actually changed, we sat at a quiet corner table at Frothy Monkey. She stirred her latte 3 times before speaking. "I know you're angry," she said finally. "I would be too." I didn't answer. "I wish we'd handled things differently," she went on. "Your father and I, we thought we were doing what made sense. Marshall was starting a family. He needed a foundation. You seemed independent, self-sufficient." That word again, seemed. "So you thought I needed less?" I asked, not harshly, just honestly. She winced. "We thought you'd say no. You've always been so proud, strong. That doesn't mean I didn't want to be seen or treated fairly." She nodded slowly. Then she said something I'll never forget. "We underestimated you, not just what you could do, but what you deserved." It wasn't a perfect apology. It wasn't everything. But it was a start. Over the next few months, we rebuilt something. Not the relationship we had before, because that version was rooted in imbalance and assumptions, but something new. Something built on my terms. Marshall came by one Saturday with his daughter in tow. She ran into my arms like nothing had happened, sticky fingers and all. He hung back on the porch a little sheepish. "I should have said something," he admitted, "when they gave me the house. I knew it wasn't fair." "You didn't make the promise," I said. "They did," he nodded. "Still, I could have done more." It was the closest thing to brotherly accountability I'd ever received. It felt like closure. And then came the twist, the part I hadn't seen coming. About a year after I moved in, my parents tried to make things right in the only way they knew how. They offered me money. A check. $800,000. The same amount they'd given Marshall. "Use it however you like," my dad said. "It's yours." But I didn't need it anymore. And that's where the revenge came in. Not the bitter, screaming kind. Not public humiliation or slammed doors or disowning anyone. No, my revenge was polite. Quiet, subtle. It was my no. I declined the check. I said, "Thank you, but I'm fine. I've already built the life I needed." The look on their faces, shocked, hollow, humbled, was the moment I knew I'd taken back my power. They couldn't buy my forgiveness. They couldn't erase the way they'd made me feel with money. That's what they never understood. I didn't want their money. I wanted their respect. And now I have it. Because I took it on my own. Today, my home is full of light. My parents are in my life, but they don't run it. We meet for dinner now and then. Marshall invites me to his daughter's birthdays. It's peaceful, mostly, but with boundaries. That's the lesson I learned. Family doesn't mean forever access. It doesn't mean you're required to tolerate being dismissed just because someone shares your blood. Forgiveness doesn't have to mean forgetting. And closure. Sometimes it looks like a front porch, a house that's all yours, and the unshakable knowledge that you didn't wait for anyone to hand you what you deserved. You built it, you earned it, you are it.